how can I be natural even when I'm being judged?
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
We've created for you free access to over 503 episodes of Life's Inside Track, where we share insider tips. We share even stats, and we share harmony and how really to get the most out of the life that you're living. And the great news is you can get access to them on a YouTube channel, but you can get access to them on the go, at home, or even at your office, as long as you're supposed to be watching when you're at the office. Anyway, we're grateful that we get to have these conversations.
Mm. So when my behaviors are in alignment with my identity, then bring it on. Bring on the judgment. Bring it, because I can take it. How's that?
That's really good. And what we're going to learn in this episode, what are 3 keys or 3 things that we can kind of lean into, or steps, because we call everything life steps. So I'm going to call them a life step. What are 3 life steps that we can take to make sure that we stay naturally ourselves rather than become the unnatural version?
So are you asking our listener, or are you asking Taria?
I'm asking Taria and our listener, because our listener or our viewer can email us, they can comment in the videos, they can engage with the conversation. But I think Taria has some answers. And as a social media strategist, you've gone through that cycle of probably not being yourself at a time.
Oh gosh, not even just in social media, but in business, So can you ever recall a time where you're in a situation and it just doesn't feel right to you?
Mm-hmm.
And then you
More than
once. Like it's in your gut, it's off. And you do that thing where you convince yourself that maybe it's okay, and you go ahead and you push through anyway, and you do it. Isn't that like the worst feeling?
Well, I can make it worse.
Do you have an example?
I sometimes get my friends to help me convince me.
Ooh.
When I know it's off.
That it's okay.
Get them to help convince me.
Do you have an example of that?
Oh, I just did it last week, didn't I?
Well, let's hear it.
Caught.
Let's be authentic and be your real self, and let's hear about it.
Well, we'd actually, in this scenario, we had offered to a client to basically assign the property if, in fact, they weren't able to get the financing in order. And that was a gracious gift, and it was wonderful. And they were happy, but then they wanted us instead to do some fancy financing. And it felt not great to me, but I wanted to do it for them because it was like, it would have been being nice and it would have been being kind. But the upheaval and the upset so when I knew in my being, it wasn't like the best choice, but I didn't want to give them my natural, authentic answer, because I knew it would disappoint.
Yeah.
So I started seeking out friends.
Yeah. And one of the things that I just heard you say, and which is always a good check to know when we're, assessing those situations, when we have to make up clever words like fancy financing, that's usually the clue that something, something is off. And you're not in touch with it, or it's just outside of your being.
That's good. Fancy words is a clue if they're not in your regular vocabulary.
Yes.
Because I've been told they got me some fancy words and they're in my vocabulary.
But sometimes we use those words to convince ourselves, Yeah.
Okay. So assess the situation and check out if it feels right.
Yes. That's
the first life step.
Yes.
Second life step.
The second life step is to make sure that you practice mindfulness. So this is the authentic check-in with yourself. So am I being authentic in this moment?
To your values,
to
your
values,
identity, to your character.
Yeah.
All of the
mindfulness. That's a mouthful. Like mindfulness. What's that really practically mean?
That's the awareness. So do we have an awareness about ourselves, a conscious awareness, something that that you do that check-in once again, that
Okay.
check-in with yourself to say, hey, you know what? What's really going on here? So it's having that state of awareness.
So is that like Dr. Carolyn Leaf talks about the
Multiple
multiple
perspective
perspective advantage that
Mhm.
humans have, is that they can actually kind of look at their thinking,
Yes.
because the brain can do two things at once, kind
Yes.
of thing. Although I have a hard time chewing gum and walking, but that's a whole nother story. Or
Right.
talking while I'm driving. That is a tough one for me.
Mm.
So talk a little bit more about the multiple perspective advantage, because that's going to sound like a fancy word if you haven't been following Dr. Caroline Leaf's or others' work that
Mhm.
talk about our brain can kind of do two things at the same time, be here with you right now, and at the same time somewhat assessing whether I'm being true to me.
Yeah.
Well, that's that self-talk, right? That's your self-talk that's
Mhm.
going on. You could be having a conversation, and I might be thinking in the background, in another part of my brain, oh, is my shirt done up? Is my hair okay? Or like all kinds of self-talk, or man, I can't believe I just said what I said. Right in the middle of the conversation,
Yeah.
you're having two conversations, one with yourself and one with someone else.
Yeah. And like you said, is that internal self-talk. So as we're in these situations, what is the self-talk that's going through your mind? Not just the like you said, the little things like my hair, whatever, but are you having that self-talk about the situation that you are currently in? And what is that self-talk telling you? So is it just that you're nervous about the situation, or you are about to be inauthentic and step outside of your true
Mm.
character or do something that's against your values? And I think that that's the self-talk that we should be focused on, like
Not
in
this
these
little stuff.
in these
So
situations,
you
because a
may-
lot of times we tend to push them down.
Will you push down that
Yeah.
that voice? You see the picture with the little devil and the little angel on the
Yes.
side talking to you, right?
Got it.
And so you maybe are peer pressure of going out with some friends that are going to do something that really is outside of your values.
Yes.
Now you check in with your self-awareness. That's somewhere you shouldn't be going. Is
Yes.
that what you're saying?
That's exactly what
I
I'm saying.
got it. Yes.
But isn't it interesting that you wanted to go to the little simple things, because that is easier to do than actually have a true awareness and assessment?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Like for all of us, and it's not to rat you out, Ken.
Not well.
No.
It was easier than being really authentic.
Exactly. I mean, isn't that true though?
Yeah,
so we
and that's
have
the
to
challenge.
be on our
Yeah.
kind of on guard
Yeah.
for when we kind of swerve off to the right or to the
Mhm.
left.
Yeah.
So number 3.
Number 3 is your circle. So who is in your circle? So as we go through these things and we're in these situations, who do you turn to? Do you have a support circle that will help and assist you along the journey? And one of the things when I think of my support circle, I love the people who allow or create the space for me to just be vulnerable. Be vulnerable and say, hey, this is what's really coming up for me. Can we take a minute and unpack this? I need some help here.
That's fantastic. That's rare to have that inner circle that's willing to hold you accountable to the
Yeah.
values that you've said you
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
That's
And we
really
actually
cool.
have an episode coming up where we're going to have another conversation and have another friend join us where we actually talk about the inner circle in a lot more depth, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So here's the life work. Write down 5 non-negotiable values that you will not bend no matter what.
We're grateful to be your partners on the journey and just love that we get to do this together.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward